Welcome back. Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. We begin conversations this morning in studio by speaking with Miss Gillian Stanisclaus, who is the Assistant Manager of the Tobago Office of the EMA. And this morning, as you are aware, we're heading into the Tobago Carnival festivities, and we want to talk a little bit about the EMA's role. In fact, we want to bring our viewers up to speed as it relates to noise pollution awareness around this time. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Adanna. Good morning, Tobago. Nice to be here to have this discussion.
Of course. And I remember having conversations with you last year around this time when we were preparing for Carnival and, bringing some information to light. But I want us to go through it again just to ensure that our viewers, they kind of really understand what the do's and the don'ts, the requirements are as it relates to noise pollution. And even outside of Carnival, sometimes you hear I know there are restrictions in terms of, or regulations rather, in terms of when you can start playing loud music in the morning and the time is supposed to end at night. So let's go through the conversation and what we need to be aware of for this season.
Yes. In terms of the Carnival this year, we have been working with the THA. We are part of the committee in terms of planning for the Carnival event. And we, based on lessons learned and issues that were raised in the previous carnivals, we have put things in place in terms of what we refer to as the soft start, from Shore Park to the main road on Mount Murray there by Bishop's Bus Shed, meaning that they do not have loud music. They do play their music, but not as loud as the bands normally have, because we have learned that they impact other residents in the Signal Hill, the hospital area. So we have met last year, and they say we continue the conversation with the band leaders, with the truck drivers, the DJs, and we continue to remind them of the issue of those things. And then further to that, along the route, we will have our officers monitoring. And we do have the contact information of the band leaders. So if a band is giving a little trouble or the DJ gets excited, we do have the capability to go and intervene and remind them that, listen, as much as we are having the fun, we have to stay within the regulation and within the laws. So we have that in place, as well as in the end, because they're ending in Shore Park again, they go down again in terms of volume. So we have that in place. There were little kinks last year, as everything as you implement and you roll out. And this year we hope to be better at it, and we will be having our officers monitoring during the entire process and over the 2 days.
A very interesting question I was thinking of while you were speaking. How do you measure the volume? So how do you know this is the regulated volume, and how do you assess that?
Okay. Well, we have a noise pressure monitoring kit that we will be having on site. It's the same meter we use when we do all noise complaints anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago. Because as always, we do everything scientifically and based on, not on our opinion, on what people think or we hear.
And I'm happy that you clarified that, because I know some people might be thinking, yeah, but how do you know the music loud? So I'm happy that you actually have, a gadget, if I can call it that, to ensure that it is regulated in the correct way, so that people don't feel as if you are targeting them.
Yes. So we use the noise pressure monitoring kit. It measures decibels level, and we have a range that we permit in any event. So we usually go with anytime over 50, so we go to 70 for events that are like fetes and stuff like that. And one thing to note, outside of the carnival period, we only allow, we only permit events 8 hours of noise above the permissible levels.
And those 8 hours, are they controlled by time? Because I know sometimes there are daytime events and there are nighttime events. Is there a difference in terms of how they are regulated, the noise level?
Yes. Once we have amplified sound, we have well, again, we do everything scientifically. So we have a formula for if it's a daytime event, you may be permitted to be a little louder because of all the background noise that may be interfering with your event. But that is also dependent on where the event is. So if it's in a residential area, you will not be allowed to go higher than if it's a place that has no one living around it. For nighttime events, we have different protocols and different levels that we allow. So it's all dependent on the site you're having the event and the time of day. So we have had breakfast events, we've had early morning events, but again, we only allow 8 hours.
Concerning the you spoke earlier about the permissible levels when they're passing from Shore Park to the Montgomery Junction at Bishop's High School. This is for both the Juve and the Parade of the Bands events?
Yes.
And also, I know that during the daytime, if you could clarify for us, what are the regulations? During daytime, the permissible noise levels are allowed to go above a certain level, or it's always at a particular standard no matter the time?
No, as I said before, it depends on where the event is going to be. So for the carnival period, we will be monitoring again between Shore Park and Montgomery because of where the event is located. The noise, basically it's in a valley, but the noise hits and targets the hospital. Okay. And impacts the patients there. So we are very careful in terms of what they do during those events. And we will be there for the entire period, the Juve, the everything events. So that is where we are going to be monitoring. We do have our standards. And once we go above 70, 80, depends on where it is, then we know to call the DJ or notify the DJ, listen, you need to go down a little, no talking on the mic during this area here, because we know that sometimes the DJs on the mic are louder than the music. So that is where we come in again. We have to be on the ground during that whole period. So we'll be going the route with them to make sure that they maintain some standard. But
and are there fines that are applicable should there be non-compliance?
In this event, not at this time. We have been having this, the committee has stated that there are consequences, but I do not know if they have finalized it as yet, and I don't, because they have been encouraging and it's a learning process. So because it's relatively new, and most of the players are from Tobago, they're not accustomed to the rigors of the Trinidad Carnival and what is already in place there, we are giving them time to learn a little. But we do enforce, and to be fair to them, in the last year when we implemented the process, they did listen. So when they realize, because as I said, they get excited, the vibes start to run and they start to get all these things. But when they realize, when we come and we tell them, listen, go down a little, and then when they check with us and we say, yeah, you're good there now, and then we proceed and continue.
So I was now about to ask what it's like in comparison to the Trinidad Carnival, because I know that Trinidad Carnival passes through Woodbrook and a lot of residential areas, and if those same regulations in terms of the noise levels are applied to the bands in Trinidad? Not
in because you remember the Trinidad Carnival is a declared event, so we do not monitor the carnival parade itself, but we do monitor private events. And if you have a separate event outside of the parade route. But the Tobago Carnival is slightly different in terms of its declaration. And therefore, we still have to maintain some level of control over the event, but not as stringent, so we don't have the 8-hour window. Right. But we do monitor because it's going around residents and we have the hospital that is impacted. Right. So even in the Trinidad Carnival, when bands pass the zoo and they pass the hospital, they lower their music. It's called a soft zone.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So they do.
In terms of your relationship, I know you said you all are part of the planning committee, but in terms of your relationship with the Tobago Promoters Association and they applying for noise pollution licenses and that kind of thing, how has that relationship been?
For the carnival, we have had the applications. We still have some promoters who have decided that they don't want to work with the EMA in terms of getting their permits. We are working on it in terms of enforcement. Because at the end of the day, it's $250 to apply for an event. And you apply for the event 35 days in advance, and you submit your application 28 days before. The TTPS and Tobago, they have been working with us in terms of enforcement. The relationship can be improved, as well as the courts in terms of the bar license. But we have had changes, and we continue to see changes with people applying more and more for their permits.
And let me ask this. For the ones who have decided that I don't know that you have the option to not involve the EMA, are they still allowed to have their events? And what are the actions taken for a promoter hosting an event without the application and the approval rather to have that event?
Well, the EMA does not have the authority to stop an event, only the TTPS. What we do note is that we will monitor and do an enforcement action, because our process goes through the court system. We do not have the power to go and say, shut off your music. So we usually monitor the day of the event, whether it's has its permit or not, and then we do a background noise. And once the noise level from your event is 5 decibels above what the background is, they're in violation. And we usually send it forward for legal action. And our legal team then contacts the promoter, not the promoter, contacts the event, the venue owner.
Right.
And they are charged, have to pay fines in terms of our process. But our process is a little longer, but the police has the power to go in and shut down. The courts in the past used to work with us. If they did not see the noise permit, they were not issued a bar license. But we have to continue the education, because we have some new magistrates who may not be too familiar with it. So we are continuing the education process in the legal system.
And that was going to lead to my next point in terms of the public education drive, because year after year we're hearing promoters are non-compliant and they feel they could slip through the the cracks. And of course, getting a bar license without having the EMA, I think these things should really work hand in hand, as you've suggested. And so I'm hoping that we really, it's as you said, $250,
Yes.
right? 35 days in advance. I mean, you don't wake up this morning to plan an event for tonight.
Exactly.
So in your planning process, let that be part of the to-do on your to-do list for
Yes.
planning your party, to ensure that you have all your ducks in a row. So I really do hope, and I want to talk to our viewers this morning, whether you are event promoter, you are venue proprietor, whatever you are, once you are in the industry of entertainment, let us follow the regulations. Let us make it easy on each other. I mean, the EMA has their work to do, but they don't want to be running up and down behind you to ensure that you're compliant. Just do the right thing and let us make life easier for all of us here on the island of Tobago. Remember, we're aiming to be the greatest little island on the planet, and it starts with me and it starts with you. So let us take our responsibility very, very seriously. And in closing, is there anything that you'd like to share with our viewers this morning?
Well, the EMA continues to work with Tobago, the THA, in all their projects and all that we have to do. And I want to remind citizens that if you have an issue, you can call us. In terms of noise, noise between you and your neighbor, no, you don't call us, you call the TTPS, because they have the power to intervene immediately. Our processes, we come with a meter. And it takes longer. So if you could always call our office, have a conversation with us, and we can direct you best on how to treat with it. Our numbers are 639-6717 or 226-4EMA-4362. Okay.
Thank you so very much for coming on this morning and having that conversation, a very, very important conversation in this time, not just in this time, but that we should keep in the back of our minds when you want to host your event, whether it's home by you or somewhere else. Let us remember that we have to consider other users of the area as well. We've been speaking with Ms. Gillian Stanisclaus, Assistant Manager of the Tobago Office of the EMA. October Carnival is fast approaching. And of course, my advice to you is to remember to remain safe. We have to go for a short break before we continue conversations this morning. And as we go, we invite you to help us.
Share the live, share the live, share the live.
We'll be right back.